I need my gloves.
That's right. Your gloves.
How's it going, guys? Welcome to IoT Coffee Talk.
Hey,
Speaking of
I've
coffee,
I've already had my one cup.
Really?
That's all I allowed myself.
I'm
Really?
already done. I need a
don't wanna-
refill
It's-
already.
Too wired or anything? Too much?
Yeah, the first sip is like heaven.
Yeah.
So,
I'm totally addicted. I have like 3 or 4 cups a day, which is insane.
I can't handle more than one cup. I would be bouncing and not feeling well.
All right.
I need it. Where are you, Rob?
I'm just sitting on the couch in the living room instead of being
Really?
in the office.
Oh, okay.
Got like some drapes behind me here.
Yeah.
I'm in the middle of doing my office.
Uh-huh.
So I've like taken all of this stuff behind me off the shelves, and I had binders from before Compass Intelligence, like Frost and Solo. I mean, I had some old stuff in there. So I was like, why am I keeping all of this? So I purged the office, and now I've got everything just kind of sitting there, but now I've got to do the decorating and get it all. I'm trying to make this office the only feminine thing in the house, since my whole house is run by men and boys.
Well, just ship that stuff over here. I've been aspiring to have an office like yours this whole time. See, I got
Oh, wow.
with the stuff back here.
Well, this little
Right.
unit's kind of cool. When I had this house built, the people that were building all of our cabinetry, they decided to build this unit, and it moves. I can move it. So it's not attached to the wall,
Uh-huh.
but it's a big piece. So I'm kind of stuck. I mean, I don't even know if it could fit out either door. So I might be stuck with that one.
Well, you can get your husband to airlift it with his helicopter. Roof off.
Take the roof off the house,
Totally.
raise the roof.
So Rob, dude,
Yes.
congratulations. MQ, Magic Quadrant, Gartner.
Yeah, that's exciting.
Yay. Leader.
It's pretty cool. It's a good place
Yeah.
to be, isn't it?
Yeah.
High and to the right, huh?
All that hard work and seeing it get some recognition and really place at the top on the
Yeah.
leaderboard, that's pretty awesome.
No, it's exciting.
Well, I was looking at it and going, wait a minute. We got like 2 of the dudes in our IoT Coffee Talk that have contributed or were the thought leaders or the architects of 3 of the leading companies in IoT platforms.
Isn't that crazy?
Like you and Rick, right?
I know.
Right?
I know.
PTC, I think, is like, by a couple of centimeters
Yeah.
or millimeters,
Sure.
the leader, but that's Rick's thing works, right?
Lots of
Nice to have, nice to be amongst these gurus, right?
Oh, yeah.
Leonard?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, I mean, ThingWorks was there before anybody else, pretty much.
Yeah.
So I remember when we were getting things started at Microsoft, we were always looking up to ThingWorks. Actually,
Yeah.
that was a gosh, yeah. I mean, getting to be involved at both Azure IoT and Lumada was just incredible for sure.
Yeah.
And such interesting backstories.
Yeah. And
I mean,
The origins and the stories you probably have to share.
it's interesting. ThingWorks and Lumada have been around with the Gartner Industrial IoT MQ for a few years.
Yeah.
You may remember that nobody was a leader for a while. They were visionaries. Microsoft was not anywhere on the piece of paper at all, actually, until right now.
Yeah.
Some of the backstory there. Well, if I dive in and just tell this a little bit of the story around Lumada and that whole process, obviously, Leonard, you know about this because you're an ex-Gartner guy, but it was, I remember the Gartner folks reaching out to us, and, we know a lot of these folks, a lot of the analysts and everything that we're all friends with. We're all in this.
Al Velosa, my buddy.
Yeah, I've known Al forever.
Yeah.
It was just like, hey, we're going to do this industrial IoT MQ. Would you guys be interested in participating? And I know personally, I was like, oh God, we're going to get our butts kicked. I was, I was scared of the idea of even trying because, if I think when we first entered that deal, I guess we did all the stuff in 2017. I guess it was late summer, early fall of 2017 when Gartner sent over the big mother of all Excel spreadsheets with like 1 million tabs across the top and everything. But at the time, I thought, well, Microsoft's doing great. AWS is there. Google's trying to do some stuff. They were kind of late to the game a bit. Obviously, PTC was gonna, Leonardo from SAP was actually with us initially in the visionary quadrant, and I spent a bunch of time with them with Lumada to work about how we could have our interoperability between digital twins. Yeah. But we decided to go for it. It was basically me and our CMO, our head of marketing. Ultimately, we're like, okay, we're terrified. We're probably going to fail miserably, but let's go for it anyway. And so it takes it's interesting, posting that because it's, on LinkedIn because, it's like a celebration. It's like, wow, and I think the nicest comments on there was, from my old boss, Rich Rogers, hiring me in, as the first person in for Lumada, and literally the process of being a product manager and then a CTO, it's like started with PowerPoint, like lots of things, getting sign off with the leadership in Japan and Tokyo, Hitachi, who is investing in this Hitachi Insight Group deal to build this platform. And so it starts with PowerPoint, and no doubt about it, I had a head start because I was one of the co-authors of the reference architecture for Azure IoT. And so it's not like I just didn't know what I was talking about. And so, you have a pretty good idea. Here's how it's supposed to flow. Here's what a typical IoT-ish platform looks like, devices, data, authentication, organizing the data, outcomes, all that kind of stuff. And then it turns to Visio, and then it turns to product requirements documents. And I don't know if either of you happen to be, that was a cool moment. So if I'd say the fall of 2016 in Barcelona at the IoT Solutions World Congress. I don't know if you guys were at that one or not, maybe. I was there. And stayed at some really cool hotel called the Cotton Hotel there in Barcelona. Anyway, I wrote the version V1 product requirements document for Lumada at the rooftop outdoor deck, bar area. I basically spent the whole day. It was like the last day of the event, like where you don't really go. And so I literally sat outside. The weather was gorgeous. It was October in Barcelona, and wrote the entire V1 product, documentation. And then I'm like messaging back and forth. I had my one partner in crime at the moment. It's a guy named Weizhen Lin. And he was based in the Boston area, and he was running engineering, and of course, gosh, what a story that was, just hiring engineers and interviewing every day and everything. But yeah, it started there. I created, since I still write code, just for fun, I created the first Lumada prototype on my laptop, which, was using totally different technology than we ultimately shipped with. But, the cool thing is that within 6 months of engineering, swallowing all that stuff and going for it, we had a V1 product out the door, which was remarkable. And and that's a whole other story about the power of open source technologies actually to help you get to market more quickly than we used to be able to in the past, right? With product development. But
what was a big reason why you just decided to, like, what spurred on that idea to just get this down on paper and start writing it out? I mean, was there something specifically happening, or what was going through your head that said, we got to get this moving and I'm going to write it. I'm going to design this.
Yeah. Well, there was part of, obviously I had a little pressure, you had a lot of people who'd never done this before. And that's not unusual. I saw that all the time in Microsoft. You had smart people who came from Windows or Exchange Server, right, and then they got to go build something else, and they have no idea what that is, but they're smart and they'll figure it out. And so I had a lot of talented people, and we were hiring, interviewing engineers. and I'm spending time teaching them. They kind of had an idea, but I found I probably spent more of my time probably being a teacher than anything else, actually. But yes, going from PowerPoint to Visio to how it all connects, how it all flows, how the data works, and then a document that was understandable. I don't think the document was more than 5 or 6 pages, actually, for the product requirements document for V1, that says, here's what we do at the device side, server side, authentication, storage, stuff like that. The other interesting thing, but to answer your question, I had bosses and, Rich, and then I had the guys in Japan, they were investing in us. It was an investment. It wasn't like, hey, we're just going to do this thing or whatever. The folks in Tokyo literally created a separate entity called the Hitachi Insight Group, specifically. And so that was primarily some offices in Bellevue, Washington. If you looked at where the offices are, though, you'd say they were in Redmond, Washington, because they're literally on the same 156. They're just down the street from Microsoft's headquarters. So you had engineering, PM, architecture, a lot of that stuff. Some leadership was happening there. If you'll remember, there was Hitachi Data Systems in Santa Clara selling storage, kind of EMC type stuff, and servers and a bunch of other things. We pulled people from there, marketing, sales, folks like that, to come in and join this merry band. But yeah, there was pressure. We were given an investment to say, go get it. We're trusting you.
Was the pressure brought on because of the need? Did they feel like they were behind and they needed to really ramp up? They brought you on board. They knew you could do this. They knew you had that experience. And they knew that in order to be relevant in this space, that they had to build and build quickly and have something out there in the market. Was it competition that was put the pressure on?
I think it was two things. Response to predict, GE.
It was.
Before it got and people started trashing on it, which I think is largely unjustified, but
because if you think about this time frame when we got started in 2016, Predix and GE Digital were riding high.
Yep.
And nobody knew what was going on under the covers or anything at the time. And so I think there's a small club of the world's largest industrial conglomerates. And, it's GE, it's Hitachi, it's Siemens, ABB, a lot of the usual suspects, right? And so I think Hitachi, now, this is something we all know. Hitachi and all these other manufacturers, it's not like it's connecting to all their industrial equipment and getting telemetry and doing analytics is something new for them. They've all been doing that.
Right.
But usually it's a very actually, closed loop is a good term these days, but I'll say closed loop back then. It was typically a vendor makes a machine that you buy that maybe makes other machines in your factory, for instance. And then they also give you the package that gets the analytics and maybe shows you some chart and it's running on Windows 95 or something like that. And that's kind of normal. A lot of people most people who are in the IoT or industrial IoT space actually have never seen a factory before. But what they would find amazing is Windows 95, 98, maybe some XP around there, because a lot of the technology was based on some Ole, if you remember that, and COM from early days. Anyway, that's a whole other thing. OPC is what a lot of industrial folks use, and the O in OPC stands for Ole, Object Linking Embedding from Microsoft, early days in the 90s.
I thought you said OPP.
No, you know me.
Exactly.
So yes, there was
gangster rap right there.
So it wasn't like internally Hitachi. Obviously, they had their stuff, but you're right. So I think they were looking and seeing what GE was doing. Siemens was white labeling SAP's V1 version of their IoT platform. And they ended up calling that MindSphere, but it was really an SAP product. Over time, they ended up rewriting a lot of it. So yeah, there was pressure to get in the game with those folks. Also, but a similar plan, like maybe with GE, the first customer of our platform is going to be us, right?
Right.
Right.
It wasn't like, oh God, we're a little startup and we can only stay alive if we sell this to all these other companies. We have a giant manufacturer that's over 3% of Japan's GDP that is happy to use this product internally to get extra value itself, right? And reduce costs and all the reasons why we talk about IoT. So yeah, pressure from competition. Also, there's a different mindset, I would say, in Hitachi. I don't want to say it's necessarily across all manufacturers or Japanese companies, but they expect results really quickly. Like it's more of a hardware company, right, than software, even though there's lots of software. And so Hitachi is accustomed to, we're going to go buy a factory from somebody, or we're going to go do this thing, and we're going to start making money. We're going to turn it on and start making money right away. The notion of 18 months or 36 or whatever, some long software development process, and then you're going to have your V1, and then way down the road, you'll maybe start making money. I think that was kind of alien to them a little bit.
Right.
They were expecting, get that thing up the door and let's turn on the money machine, right?
Instant ROI.
Yes.
Yeah.
And so we certainly struggled with that. We felt the pressure. We were like, that's not how it works, but I couldn't tell them that, they're like, no, we need to get this out the door. And they're already putting revenue targets on Lumada, like early on, for how much money it should be bringing in for Hitachi, like right away. And so you're in the back of your mind, you're like, oh my God, So pressure to get it out quickly as fast as possible, which we did. The MQ thing, again, was primary, me and our CMO, and Ravi Shalaka, who was the CMO, he was like one of those people who came from Hitachi Data Systems to help us out. And then I had to answer most of the questions. I had some help from a few other folks, but lots of people were always busy, as you can imagine. And so I've never seen so many questions in my life. If you think about having to answer an RFP for a customer, for a deal, and sometimes you just want to light yourself on fire, and it's like, it's not worth it.
Did you feel like you were filling out a government, maybe you felt like you were filling out a government contract? You know what, it's funny, I've been in this for a couple of decades in this analyst world, and I really never thought about the methodology that they use. I've never really, I've seen a lot of their marketing, and I know that it's a big deal for many vendors to be placed on that, and I hear the pay to play thing a lot, but I think you don't pay to be part of it. I think that a lot of people are all automatically included because they're operating in that industry, but I think that you may pay to market and push it out there to your community, right? But I wasn't sure how they do that, and I guess it's really none of my business as I'm an analyst.
I'll tell you a little bit, not too much, but there are a lot of other players who feel left out or disgruntled by that process, and they will say things like, oh, you guys had to pay money to be a part of this deal. And I hear that from folks all the time. It's absolutely not true. That said, and I'll just speak for Gartner, everybody else has their thing, and you have your thing, obviously. Aside from Gartner so first you're answering all these questions, like the largest RFP you've ever had to answer in your life. And so I spent more than a month and a half maybe filling that out, and having to call people all over the planet who are using it, and people in Tokyo and everywhere else. And then you that weeds out a lot of people right away. Also,
just because it's so time consuming to have to actually go and do the work. It's like,
it is.
If you're not going to do that, if you're not going to put the effort, then you're not going to be included.
That's why a whole lot of, if there's hundreds of IoT startups that may have great technology and you just don't see them, they look at this spreadsheet and they're like, oh God,
I'm
there's
out.
no way. But there's also other things too. There's gating factors. Gartner can't just have everybody come in. So there's requirements on how many connected devices you have, how many customers do you have, how many things. You've got to hit all these minimum bars, because being in the MQ isn't just about saying you have an awesome platform. There are other analysts that do research and deep, like our friend Dima,
Yeah.
What's the Tech Nation, whatever it is.
Technologists?
There's some that, no. Anyway, I apologize.
Okay.
But they do. There are other firms that do. They rip apart and at a very technical level, and they can say, "Is your platform awesome or not?" And that's great. That's not Gartner does that and a whole lot more. Gartner, when you're on the Magic Quadrant, it has to do with: do you have real traction? Are customers really using your product?
Yeah.
Are you hitting a lot of these other bars? So just to also to walk you through this process. Once we got through that, it was like, but I really still I still didn't have a lot of confidence because I really still thought that all the big players would kick our ass. The next step is, obviously they're going to tear apart our platform to see if it's real or BS in PowerPoint, right? But they're also going to start calling our customers, which is also where most of the other players get killed in this space, because most of the players, it's just not real. And they, granted, they may have great technology, but they didn't meet the minimum bar for how many connected devices. And then when Gartner starts having to call all the customers to find out for real about what your product, that's where things fall apart.
I think that we've often heard the term vaporware or just vapor being out there because there's a lot more marketing being thrown at some of these brands and some of these products, some of these platforms than there are customers using them. So I would have to think that might be one of the most important pieces is the end user, the customer perspective.
Yeah, it's, it's the customer is always the most important part of the whole equation. And so everything I could have said and all the stuff we could have done wouldn't have made any difference if the customer said, the product sucks, or it's it's more than the product too. It's support, it's all it's documentation, it's the training, it's how are you making it easy for us to use this technology to get value. So that's a huge part of it. Now I'll give you another. There was a lot of people were surprised the last 2 years of the MQ for industrial IoT. Didn't have a lot of the players that you expected to see on there at all. They weren't on it.
Yeah.
Too many of the players had tight dependencies on clouds and were disqualified because of that over the last few years. Because it was trying to be a real legit hardcore industrial IoT MQ that some of these things have to run completely on the factory floor. Right. Some of these things work in air gap situations. Luckily, it's always amazing what happens when you actually talk to people and listen to customers, and instead of just thinking better. When I'm designing Lumada, one of the things was I was spending a lot of time in Japanese factories and control systems groups, teams, and guess what? Hitachi makes nuclear reactors. Do you think we're going to connect those to the internet? No way. There was also the notion, and I always saw this a lot in Germany when I was working at Microsoft, about data governance and privacy and paranoia about your competitors finding stuff out. And so a lot of these folks say the data doesn't leave my factory. It does not leave the walls. And so if you go back to that time frame, the mega stuff going on with IoT there was a narrative put forward by the big hyperscale cloud providers that, the cloud is an ingredient of IoT, which it's not. It's just a different location. And so an early decision I made, engineers, developers on my team hated me for it, was I was like, hey, this thing has to be portable. It can't be, because we had folks who were like, if we could just use the new AWS Lambda functions to build Lumada, we could get to market so much faster. And they're absolutely right. And you also, when you're hiring lots of engineers, especially like younger ones, a lot of them are born in the cloud. And so they're accustomed to what all the great PaaS layer stuff they get in clouds to build their stuff faster, right? And I was like, you are going to hate me, but if we're going to be a legit industrial IoT platform, we need to be portable.
Yeah.
Hitachi makes bullet trains, and Lumada's going to have to run on a bullet train, and it's going to have to run in a nuclear reactor and in giant factories in Japan and all over the world. And the only way to make that real, and also a lot of people don't realize, since Hitachi makes hardware and hyperconverged servers, storage things, that's kind of a thing, especially now with the hybrid cloud being so hot. We actually there's a Lumada appliance we built as well. Mm-hmm. So we built software, we built a whole server array with insane amounts of RAM and crazy amounts of storage so that a customer who, again, needs an on-premise solution, early one for us was Disney. Yeah. Gosh, I remember Disney wiring it up in Florida to monitor as they were building the Toy Story solution ride.
Wow.
Experience.
Yeah, and that was an interesting deal. And, I remember my friends down the street at Microsoft giving me a lot of crap because they lost the business to us. Part of it was Disney was like, wow, you mean we can just roll this thing in here and turn it on in less than 1 hour, the whole thing's up and running and we can connect it locally. We like that. We don't want to go to some distant cloud. I remember just getting called from all my friends on the Metro team.
The crazy
the
thing
hate was coming in.
Back then, you weren't really talking about edge computing. That was just starting to coming into vogue, right? So, a lot of the analyst firms were pushing this narrative that everything is going to the cloud, which, it isn't. There's stuff going there, but, you have to ask the question, what's going up there? And it's definitely not everything. But we were just starting to talk about, edge computing. Yep. People started to talk about 5G and then the industrial impact that it would have. So those are all new concepts, but you placed your bets in the right direction, right? Because now what is everyone talking about? It's edge computing on-prem, right?
It's just having the forethought to realize that this thing needs to be flexible enough and not be completely tied to just the cloud. That's a huge thing because I think a lot of designers and engineers, some folks, especially us analysts, is you go down this one path and you think that's the only path, but you took a step back and said, hey, we need to look at the future. Yeah. There's going to be other elements coming into the mix.
Right. And, I'll say it, cloud's been way oversold. When I was just listening to Bloomberg, and they were talking about, Microsoft's earnings, right? And then you listen to how the analyst community there, the Wall Street analyst community defines cloud. It's like, Office 365, is that really cloud? I have an installation of Windows and pretty much all the apps on my Mac. That's not cloud, and so, the thing is that there's this whole idea of cloud being everything just being completely overblown, I think. And hybrid cloud, on-prem, all the, this hybrid compute is where things are going to go, and we're going to see an ebb and flow in between, cloud and all the stuff that's going to be on device. I mean, there's going to be this constant competition. You're never going to see everything go up into the cloud or become cloud native. There's going to be things that are going to be done on device, whatever that ends up meaning, right? Whether or not it's on device on a increasingly intelligent sensor or what have you. But
and it's funny because I try to take a step back and go, okay, if I'm an enterprise and I'm starting from scratch and I don't know zilch, it's like, I need to understand my storage requirements, my security requirements, and you understand my connectivity requirements. A lot of IoT is very wired, right? I need to understand all of these things, but most importantly, what are my applications? And then how does that limit me to some of the ways I'm going to set this up? What vendor am I going to go with? What integrator am I going to go with? And what do I need to tie in to my back office if I'm a factory floor to my manufacturing execution system versus other, operating systems? So it's crazy how all of these little factors are so important, but can be complex because there are a lot of options. And so I feel like our vendor community, we kind of have to help and guide our customers in making these decisions because it's overwhelming. It's not complex in that it's so hard. It's complex because there's a lot of options to go with in terms of trying to make a decision.
Well, I got to jump on to hang out with my friends at Wipro. So I just wanted to make a real quick note here. There's no surprise that Hitachi, PTC, and Microsoft are up in the leaders quadrant. I'll tell you why, Rob, is because it's not always the case that the analysts know everything. IIoT especially is kind of a new thing for Gartner way back when. And so when you looked at the first versions of the reports, it's like, you guys have been informing them. So it is a back and forth. And so this whole idea of pay to play, I think I hear that a lot. I heard it a lot when I was at Gartner. It's just a bunch of sour, mostly people who are salty.
Yep.
They didn't get on, so they're complaining. There's a whole process for you to get on. There's a whole process for you to contest your placement. So I want to give props to Gartner for really trying to make this as an objective process as possible. But that being said, these companies are there, I think, because of you and guys like Rick. And so congratulations. And I just wanted to end this episode with that. And to all of our IoT Coffee Talk fans, can we call them fans now? Yeah, thank you for attending. Press that like button, subscribe, share, comment. We want to know what you think. Is this stuff really play to pay? And is Rob as awesome as he says he is, right?
You know what?
Yes.
It's better. Don't ask me. I'll just give you the magic quadrant photo.
Yep. There you go. We'll share it.
I'm not going to say
Validation. Thank
I'm just
you.
going to hand this to you.
Yeah. So, don't forget to follow us at www.iotcoffeetalk.com, and we will see you next week.
Bye.
Have a good one. Bye.
Take care, guys. I got to jump.
All righty.
All right. I got to jump too.